And if I remember this correctly, this is really where the hand sort of, I think, goes off the rails a little bit. So now,
The low jack opens to 30. And then I believe I mentioned this on the email. He's actually another Colin person. I don't want to mention his
so,
name here, but
so, um, by the way, is there a cap in this game too?
2,500.
2,500. All right. So it's 2,500 buy-in. All right. So folds to low jack. This guy, he's. I don't think he's a CLP sub anymore, so it's not going to get back to him. But Jesse the suit, he wears a bow tie. You can't miss him at MGM National Harbor, and I think he's always playing 5'10". He's probably the neediest player, I assume, in the entire player pool.
Yes, I was actually just going to mention that. He's very nitty
Yeah,
for
yeah.
pre-flop at least.
Pre-flop, right, right.
But post-flop he seems to be pretty reasonable. So just for future reference, like my thinking, I over 3-bet versus him because I think he overfolds to me. So
Okay, so
anyway,
so he raises to 30. Okay,
mhm. I'm directly to his left in the hijack, and I 3-bet tens, black tens, so ten of spades, ten of clubs
Okay.
to 105. I would 3-bet that versus anyone, but versus Jesse, I'd probably even go wider just for reference. Anyway, folds back to him, and he calls.
and how deep are you guys, by the way?
Oh yeah, sorry, 1,350 effective.
Low jack calls 1350 effective. Okay, yep.
All right, flop is nine of clubs, eight of spades, five of clubs.
Nine of
That's about
clubs,
225 in the middle.
nine of clubs, eight of spades, five of clubs. All right, so 3-bet pot, low jack 30, hero in the hijack with 10-10, with the 10 of clubs, and the low jack calls, and now the board comes out, I would say, somewhat wet here. Nine of clubs, eight of spades, five of clubs, but you do have black tens, and you've got a backdoor here too. Okay.
Yeah. So I actually do not like this board at all, despite having an overpair, because I think he calls me with all nines, eights, and fives, and maybe even some 6-7 suited, but he folds a lot of like king queen off hands and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what to go. I was debating about betting big or betting small. I don't think checking tens here is good because I need a lot of protection. I ended up going about 1/3. I bet at $80, but I don't know if you prefer like a nice 160 size or something like that.
No, I don't think so. I think that betting small is better than betting large here on this board for the reasons that you stated. What you're really trying to get called by is some of the two overcards and backdoor types of hands and some ace highs. If you just like blast for like full pot, then he's going to fold all of those. And then now you're behind to, queens and jacks and some of the other sets. So thinking about that range, I don't think that this would be a time to bet super large in this scenario. So I think 1/3 or even, smaller than that is fine to induce a lot of these types of calls. So what do you bet, like 70 or something?
I bet 80.
What is it?
80.
80? Okay, check.
Mhm.
Hero 80.
And then he calls.
Low jack calls. And if I remember this correctly, this is really where the hand sort of, I think, goes off the rails a little bit. So now the pot is, so you just put in 160. So what is it, like 370?
385.
385. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
Turn
pot's
is
385. Yep.
Yeah. Turn is a 7 of hearts. He checks. And I'll just walk through my thinking. While this doesn't seem like the best card for me, I don't think he has a lot of sixes here, other than specifically 6-7, which is already beating me, so it doesn't change. And only Jack 10 really improves.
Mm-hmm.
And I blocked Jack 10 pretty
10.
heavily.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I think I could still get value from like maybe a 9-10 kind of hand, or maybe a flush draw type of hand, and I want to charge it. So I bet 180. And I don't need to go too big because if I go too big, I think I'm only going to get called by hands that are better than me. But I don't know if you prefer checking in this spot. I don't think a big size makes any sense here, or maybe you disagree with that too as well.
I would probably check here. I mean, to stay entirely balanced, though, because you probably just don't have that many sixes. To stay entirely balanced, that would assume that you probably, if you had like a Jack 10 type of hand, even then, like you're still probably betting Like, this is probably such an infrequent bet from you on the turn. And I'm just trying to kind of think through the theory. The only thing I would say is, like, if you had a big draw with a 10 in it, or if you had Jack 10, those would be the balanced bluffs here. But what I find interesting, though, is you're sort of taking an in-between sizing here. And you bet so small on the flop. Like I said, I would probably check here a lot on the turn, because I think that a lot of those sort of Broadway-ish types of hands are just going to basically fold out. But if something happens here where he raises, even though he's nitty as hell, like, not only can you not fold because you're open-ended, but I just think that you're setting yourself almost up for getting played back at when you bet this turn, because this is such a low frequency bet. So again, you're betting half the size of the pot here. You're open-ended. I just think that I would check it back a lot. So you bet 180. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then he played back, as you mentioned. He raises to 450.
So hijack raises to 450. So now it looks like the pot is 560. It's like 1,000, and he didn't even really 3x it, right? It's 1,000, and it's what, like 270 for you to call, right? Something like that.
I mean, I think folding is out of the question.
Well, you're open-ended.
There's no way.
No, you're open-ended and you block the nuts. But I honestly, I got to be honest with you. Like, I think folding's going to be out of the question no matter what comes. I'm serious. Like, the way that you have played this hand, because you've got black tens, I don't even know what I would ever fold on, regardless of what the card is. Like, I don't even know if it matters, especially maybe even if it's a club and he's trying to like pull something, where he's like trying to, use a scare card and you've got the 10 of clubs in your hand. But I don't really know if you miss here, right? So if any card comes besides a 6 or a jack, the way that you've played it, even though he's nitty, and he's only going to have what, like maybe 600 or 700 left. It's just such a good spot for him to bluff. And if he's playing like really taggy, I just don't see how I don't know if you're going to be able to fold. So, all right, I'm assuming you call here, right?
Yeah, I call. And the river is the 3 of clubs, and as you mentioned, he jams for around he jams for 700. So whatever it is, roughly 700.
So the river's a 3 of clubs. So it's 9 of club. Let me walk through the whole hand here again.
Yeah.
And again, I'll give you a background on who this guy is. Jesse the Suit, big knit, tax attorney in Washington. He wears a bow tie. He used to get on me for playing too loose. So you can imagine that when you guys watch the live streams. Doesn't have a flatting range in a lot of situations, but he opens from the low jack to 30. Hero 3 bets the hijack with black tens to 105. Heads up, he calls 1350 effective. 9 of clubs, 8 of spades, 5 of clubs. Check, hero bets 80, about 1/3. Low jack calls 385. Turns the 7 of hearts, so hero is now open ended. Low jack checks, hero bets 180, and the hijack raises Jesse the Suit to 450. Obviously, hero's getting a price. Hero calls. Pot's like 1285. 9857. Hero has black tens. River's the 3 of clubs. The front door club comes in, and he jams for how much exactly?
I think 700? 720 exactly, or 700, whatever, around there.
So low jack jams for 720 into 1285. So it looks like the pot is like 2,000. 720 for you to call. Put it this way. I'm not going to say that, calling down here with one pair on a one-liner and a 3 flush is ever sort of a snap call, but I feel like if there's ever a hand that you could possibly have to do it with, especially now when he takes this weird sort of, it's almost kind of bizarre to me. I don't know which Mike, right? Is that your name? Chris. It's kind of bizarre to me, Chris, because like, do you think that he's ever playing a set this way? With a one-liner out there on the turn, and then the front door comes in after you bet call the turn. By the way, what I'll also say too is that if you actually look at your range of betting on the turn, if we think that you're actually going to be checking back a lot of sort of overpairs, and a lot of your range of betting on the turn is going to consist of 10x, usually 10x of clubs, right? So it's going to be flush draws maybe that you continue on with. You make a flush here a lot. So it's like I don't buy it from him in the sense that like he'd have to have like a flush here, I think, quite a bit to make this play. I don't think he's doing it with the 6 either. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's close because with like a bare 6, but if he had pocket 6s here and he played it this way, first of all, I think that he might even donk lead turn. But if he had 6s and played it this way, and you called the check raise on the turn, do you think he is jamming the river?
Yes,
you
100%.
You think he's jamming the river with 6s when the club comes in at the end when you bet call the turn?
Yes.
I mean,
maybe. I mean, I don't know 100%. That's just my opinion. I mean, maybe he's changed. I have him tagged as very nitty pre-flop, but post-flop, I don't think he's this absurdly nitty the way you're making.
No, I don't think it's. I don't think he's nitty. I don't think he plays tag. I don't think he's necessarily nitty at all. I'm just saying that you've opened yourself up to being, to sort of being kind of played at here by betting the turn. But I'm not saying that not betting. I'm not saying that if somebody didn't bet 6s all in on the river that's nitty. I'm saying you have to. If you had 6s in this spot and you were out of position and played it this way, you have to be very, very aware of what the preflop 3-better is bet calling the turn with, and it consists of a ton of flush draws. I feel like.
I guess that's a good point. I think the reason I would say he would do for 6s is I'm extremely aggressive and I make a lot of just like I'm very like laggy and make a lot of lighter calls against people. And I think it would be a mistake versus myself to not value bet 6s. And I think he would realize that. I might be mistaken. 6s would be the draw the line. There's no way he does it with a set. Jack 10, 100%. I think he does this. And obviously every flush he has, he's doing this with.
I think like I said, if I could ever sort of handpick one of the better hands to call down with, it would be 10s, and your sort of turn play opens yourself up to basically playing for stacks. So I call here. I call.
That makes you feel a lot better because I ended up snap calling.
Okay, snap call.
I'm not gonna lie, I was a little tilted, and I didn't realize the river was a club.
Oh, okay.
Maybe when I thought about it a little more, and I probably still would have called anyway, though.
Yeah.
But he ended up having ace jack of clubs, which makes a lot of sense, obviously. But that makes you feel a lot better, though. I was thinking that he wouldn't be doing this with like ace jack of spades, for example. Just like he turned, like he floated me with a backdoor flush draw, then just turned a gutter and decided to go bonkers with this.
You think he's just like sort of better structured than that? You mean?
Yeah. Like I feel like.
I mean, it's interesting. So what do you think he would have done if the river was an offsuit 3 after he check raised turn?
I think he would have jammed as well.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he wouldn't, but I'm just saying. I think it sounds like you think he would have raised a turn with a lot wider hands. Where I'm struggling to think of what he raised with the turn, other than like as bluffs, other than like flush draws, and then maybe like 8-10 suited.
Well, I mean, part of the issue, of course, is that you have some of the 10s, right? Like, so, the primary types of draws would be like the 10x of clubs types of hands, right? That's like the best draw. And of course, you've got the 10 of clubs sort of in your hand. But I just sort of default back to when you bet a scare. It's kind of interesting that even I'm actually a little bit, it's like I said, the spot really isn't bet a whole lot from your perspective. So from his perspective, I'm actually a little bit surprised that he raises the turn, because it just seems like you have a very, very strong hand when you're continue to bet the turn that's not really going to bet fold. Now, he does have like the nut flush draw, but so when you sort of take that bet on the turn, he's got a boatload of equity. Put it this way, like I'd rather just play at you almost on the flop here. I'd expect you to bet the turn, and I'm not saying that I would necessarily always check raise flop, but I wouldn't expect you to bet the turn. So it's like if I took ace jack of clubs and just called the flop and then you bet again on the turn, I would be kind of scratching my head a little bit because I don't really expect you to fold all that much. But
That makes sense.
yeah.
I agree with you. I was honestly expecting to get raised in the flop a ton
Hmm.
because I think he realizes that that board is so much better for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I have a one question.
Sure.
Someone mentioned in the chat. I don't. I think this is crazy, but I don't know if you think there's any validity. What are your thoughts on potentially three bet jamming the turn? I never considered it, but I don't know if you think it's any play at all.
Three bet jamming the turn.
Mhm.
I mean, I mean, you have so I mean, so you're just basically what trying to play your hand for protection.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
You're
think
not
I
really getting
never
anything
considered
better
it.
to fold, right? You're not getting a better hand to
Yeah,
fold.
yeah. I mean,
So it's
that's what
just a
I was just
protection.
wanted to make sure that. Yeah, yeah.
It's just kind of a protection play. Um, I
Right, right.
mean, he would. I mean, the hands that really like. Here's the thing. Obviously, if he hits a jack, you're no good here, right? So you're open ended. So he would have to have like really like two clubs that are over obviously your tens that don't improve you to a straight. So it can't be like the jack. It can't be a jack. So it's like king, queen of clubs, something like that. So I don't know. It's just, you're not really, because you have the 10 of clubs in your hand, you just don't, I don't think you need to protect against much here though. You know what I'm saying? There might even be more value than just going call, call, you know? So anyways, thank you very much